to do with the state money so far. As I can see now, let's take a look over at the State House where people are already set up. The governor should be getting ready in just about a minute. People will be are sitting down getting ready. Thank you so much for joining us on Facebook, on YouTube, on our website, on our app. We appreciate all of your support and for tuning in here to the State of the State address. I don't see anyone. You can take a look here. This is our live feed. Everyone is setting up. Let's take my name down. And we're getting ready here. Governor is not here yet, but before we get to that, let's talk about a little bit about what the governor spoke about last year in the 2022 State of the State address. You know, inflation, rising gas prices, grocery costs, a lot of the same topics that we're talking about this year, because they were still top of the mind last year, of course. The State of the State 2022 largely focused on pandemic relief efforts, though. How lawmakers work to get funds out supporting small businesses, bolstering high-speed internet access, and then keeping construction projects going despite COVID-19. It'll be an interesting topic this year to look back on and talk further about, as COVID-19 restrictions have eased heavily since last year. Okay, another thing that Evers last year touted the 2.8% unemployment rate, which he called the lowest in the state's history. Another major topic from last year, funding to public education, of course. Evers was able to do this with about $90 million in federal pandemic funding. He also promised to work to get state money to K through 12 education, $2 billion from the state surplus, and Evers has not been successful with that, with Republicans blocking his proposal. All right, I see cheers happening over at the State House. Let's take a look.
Wisconsin tribal leaders, Chairman Ron Korn of the Menominee Tribe of Wisconsin. Vice Chair Thomas Fowler of the St. Croix Chippewa Indians of Wisconsin. Chairman Tahasi Hill of the United Nation of Wisconsin. President Shannon Holsey of Stockbridge-Muncie Community.
Just to interject here, it looks like they are introducing
Treasurer Manny Johnson of the Forest County
to the speaking
Potawatomi
tonight, and right now we have live at the State of the State address. We have Elizabeth Wattis and Colton
Vice Chair
Molesky.
Jessica
They are
Ryan
by
of the Brothertown Indian Nation.
Entire speech coming back to us tonight at 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock with the recap of what happened tonight. Now, Elizabeth will be focusing on the
Marlon
Democratic side of the aisle here, while Colton Molesky will be focusing on the Republican side of the aisle. So we will have all of that coming up tonight in your newscast, so stay tuned on air or online.
The governor.
And it looks like they just announced that the governor would be entering soon here.
All right, that was quick. Everybody pay attention here. The joint convention shall come to order. The chair recognizes the Assembly Sergeant at Arms.
Mr. President and members, the governor of the great state of Wisconsin, the Honorable Tony Evers.
At this time, I introduce to you the governor of the great state of Wisconsin, the Honorable Tony Evers.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Wisconsin. Honorable Supreme Court Justices, our great tribal nation leaders, constitutional officers, Major General Knapp, members of the Wisconsin National Guard, and active and retired members of our armed forces, cabinet members, Senate President Kapenga, Majority Leader Mitt Lemieux, Minority Leader Agard, Speaker Voss and Minority Leader Neubauer, legislators, distinguished guests, and to all of the Wisconsinites joining us, whether you're here tonight or where you're in the gallery or watching from home. Thanks so much for being here tonight. I'm Tony Evers, and I'm proud to be standing here tonight as the 46th governor of the great state of Wisconsin to deliver my 5th State of the State address. My son Nick and his wife Landa are with us tonight, and my former kindergarten classmate Kathy is up in the gallery. We celebrated our 50th. Celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary last year, and this year we'll be celebrating our 54th year of going to the Wisconsin State Fair together. How about that, Kathleen, Francis? Thank you so much for your relentless support, understanding, really good humor, and insight. I love you so much. Thank you. On May 29th, 1848, President Polk signed a bill making Wisconsin a state. That means in 2023, we'll be celebrating Wisconsin's 175th birthday, and I'm proud to report to you tonight that in 175 years of statehood, our state has never been in a better fiscal position than it is today. When we began our work together 4 years ago, our roads and bridges were in disrepair. We'd sent back tens of millions of dollars of your tax dollars to Washington, D.C. that could have been used to expand high-speed internet. Our school rankings dropped to 18th in the country at one point. Support for our university system had been cut by hundreds of millions of dollars. And our state was not actively working to address climate change or invest in clean energy. Well, I am proud to say that the state of our state is much different today. We've gotten to work fixing the darn roads. I even helped fill some of those potholes myself, by the way. It's not a full-time job for me. And I stand here tonight, I'm proud to report we've worked together to repair and improve over 5,800 miles of roads and nearly 1,600 bridges across our state. We've also gotten back on track preparing our state and our workforce and our economy for this century. Over the last 4 years, we've allocated more than $340 million into expanding high-speed internet, more than any other administration in our state's history. More than 387,000 homes and bridges will have new or improved access to reliable high-speed internet, and I want to double that number by the end of this term. And together we will do that. We've also created the Council on Health Equity and charged them with preparing a blueprint for reducing and eliminating health disparities across our state. We created the state's first ever plan to respond to and mitigate the effects of climate change. I signed an executive order creating the first ever Office of Environmental Justice to develop strategies that will help us address disparate impacts of climate change in communities across the state. Our state now has a clean energy plan with strategies to help lower energy bills for working families, reduce our reliance on out-of-state energy sources, invest in job training and apprenticeship programs in innovative industries and technologies, and create an estimated more than 40,000 jobs by 2030. I've also kept my promises. I vetoed every bill before me that restricted reproductive freedom. We've also delivered a 10% tax cut for working families. We increased investments in our public transit and our university system and technical college. We've convened a Blue Ribbon Commission to help develop solutions and create opportunities for Wisconsin's veterans. And last October, we took the Commission's recommendations and announced $10 million to support veterans' mental health, create a rental assistance program for homeless veterans, and to expand veterans' access to skills and job training. We've gotten to work these last 4 years making smart strategic investments, and our state's economy shows it. Over the last 4 years, unemployment has hit record lows, and we've had the highest number of people employed ever. Our state has a AAA bond credit rating for the first time in about 40 years. That means we're able to get lower interest rates and save your tax dollars. Our general fund and rainy day fund both ended the last fiscal year at the highest levels ever in our state's 175-year history. We're now expected to end the current biennium with about a $6.5 billion in our state coffers and over $1.7 billion in the rainy day fund. Great news, Wisconsin. It means we can continue our progress making the wise investments we've long needed to do, and not because anyone wants to make government bigger, but because Wisconsinites want a government that works and works better. We have roads and bridges to fix, schools to fund, kids to support, communities to keep safe, water to keep clean, and a future we built together after years of neglect that today we must work to protect. We've worked to invest in public education at every level after a decade of disinvestment. We passed the largest increase in special education aid in state's history. Our K-12 schools have now returned to the top 10 in the country. But we also know our current system is not sustainable. For years, communities have raised their own property taxes to keep their local schools afloat. And while some school districts have successfully passed a referendum to help keep the lights on, many have tried and failed. The system means drastic differences in outcomes for our kids, creating winners and losers, haves and have-not. Doing what's best for our kids has always been what's best for our state, and today we can afford to do more. So I'm going to deliver on the promise I made before the election to use a portion of our state's historic surplus to make an historic investment in our kids and in our schools. targeted investments to improve reading and literacy outcomes and expand financial literacy curriculum across our state. We're going to invest $20 million to increase literacy-related programming and implement evidence-based reading practices across Wisconsin. And our Do the Math initiative will help ensure our kids have the tools and skills to make smart budgeting and financial decisions to prepare for their future. We also know that if we want to get our kids caught up and achieving at their highest potential, that we need to reduce and keep class sizes small. Schools need resources to retain experienced educators and recruit new talented folks to join in our classrooms. So I'm proposing a pathway to get experienced educators back into the workforce by making it easier for school districts to hire retired teacher and staff. And we're going to invest $20 million into recruiting, developing, and retaining teachers and student teachers, including $10 million for our local homegrown educators to bolster our educator pipeline and ensure it's sustainable for the future. We also have work to do to get our kids caught up from the past few years. We all want to improve outcomes and ensure our kids are prepared for success. I believe that together we will, and we'll start by making sure our kids can bring their full and best selves to our schools and to our classrooms. Now, we cannot overstate the profound impact that the past few years have had on our kids in many ways, and that includes their mental health. According to the Office of Children's Mental Health 2022 report, about 1/3 of our kids experience sadness and hopelessness every day. That's every day, a 10% increase over the last decade. Kids in crisis are often distracted or disengaged in class, might not be able to finish their homework, and won't be able to focus on their studies at home or at school. Improving student mental health can also improve student learning outcomes and school attendance while reducing bullying, risky behaviors, violence, involvement in the juvenile justice system, and substance misuse. So over the last year, we've doubled our investment in our Get Kids Ahead initiative, investing $30 million of our federal pandemic relief funds to provide every Wisconsin's public school district with new resources to expand school-based mental health services. Tonight, I'm announcing we're going to make Get Kids Ahead a permanent state program, and we're investing more than $270 million to ensure every student has access to mental health services. The last few years have affected our kids' mental and behavioral health and adults' mental health too. We've seen a record high opioid-related overdose deaths, and Wisconsin's 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline received 6,000 calls just in the first month of its launch this past July. The state of mental health in Wisconsin is a quiet, burgeoning crisis that I believe will have catastrophic consequences for generations if we don't treat it with the urgency it requires. Mental and behavioral health is as much of a health issue as it is an economic one. It affects kids in the classroom. It affects workers being able to join and stay in our workforce. It affects whether folks are able to stay in safe housing or have economic security. It affects folks' ability to take care of and provide for their family and loved ones. So tonight, I'm declaring 2023 the year of mental health. And together with our Get Kids Ahead initiative investment, we'll be making an overall investment of about $500 million to expand access to mental and behavioral health services for the people of Wisconsin. 2022 report by the University of Wisconsin Population Health Institute indicates that there are 440 people for each mental health provider in Wisconsin. And even before the pandemic, a 2019 report from the Institute indicated that 55 of Wisconsin's 72 counties have significant shortages of psychiatrists. So we're also going to invest in making sure we have adequate available mental health professionals who can provide the treatment Wisconsinites need across our state. We're going to invest in developing robust prevention strategies to reduce suicide, health, self-harm, and other mental and behavioral health-related injuries. And that includes state resources to support 988, the new suicide and crisis lifeline, which went live in 2022 thanks to our Senator Tammy Baldwin, as well as increased support for peer-run and community-based services across the state. Mental health deals with everybody here, you know, not just this side also. We cannot look back 2 years from now as we prepare the next budget and wonder whether we should have done more and sooner to take good care of our mental health. Let's take this seriously and let's start today. Mental health is just one issue facing our state that needs urgent attention and action. I've also spent 4 years trying to get some folks, and some of them in this room, believing PFAS are a pressing threat to our state's economy and our health and our well-being and our way of life. I created the state's PFAS Action Council to prepare the state's first ever PFAS action plan. We set enforceable PFAS drinking and surface water standards for the first time ever. Attorney General Call and I have filed a lawsuit against more than a dozen defendants who we believe contributed to PFAS contamination and make sure Wisconsinites won't have to foot the bill for cleaning it up. I also directed $10 million that will help get PFAS, nitrates, and other harmful contaminants out of about 1,000 private wells in Wisconsin. Clean drinking water has been a priority for my administration from day one. We've also proposed efforts and resources and ideas to make headway on PFAS and other contaminants that have been obstructed, delayed, and outright rejected. So tonight, I implore you again to join us in this fight. The work we must do to address PFAS and other contaminants grows harder and more expensive with each day of delay. Partisan politics cannot keep getting in the way of this work while Wisconsinites worry about the water coming from their tap. Clean water must be a top priority from us, from PFAS to lead to nitrates, and it will be in my executive budget I'll announce next month. I'm proposing to invest more than $100 million to take a three-pronged approach to confronting PFAS across the state. We're going to increase PFAS testing, sampling, and monitoring statewide so that we can find these contaminants and get them out of the water. We're going to make more resources available to on-the-ground partners to respond to PFAS contamination when it happens. And we're going to work to increase awareness about the dangers of PFAS so folks can take steps to keep themselves and their loved ones safe. Whether it's PFAS and clean water, supporting our farmers and our agriculture industry, finding more district attorneys and public defenders, expanding access to affordable housing and child care, every level of government must be working together to address the challenges facing our state. And the state must do its part if we want our local partners to help us with this important work. But we also know that for the last decade, local communities have been asked to do more with less. State aid has gone down while costs have gone up. While help from the state was cut by more than 9%, public safety costs have skyrocketed more than 16%. Communities across Wisconsin have made difficult decisions to cut critical services, including public safety. Last fall, I announced a plan to invest over $100 million to help our local governments fund essential services and communities across our state. And that includes a new $10 million program to help specifically fund public safety services like EMS, police, and fire. The bottom line for me has always been making sure our communities have the resources they need to meet basic and unique needs alike. But there are a lot of different ways we can find compromise to achieve that goal. And together we will. So as we keep working together on a plan, let's find common ground. I'm announcing tonight that I will work together on a budget provision that will send a total of up to 20% of the state's sales tax revenue back to our local communities for shared revenue. This commitment will ensure our communities will see growth in shared revenue in the future after years of state investment not keeping up with their community needs. And it means more than $500 million more per year in new resources to invest in key priorities like EMS, fire and law enforcement services, transportation, local health and human services, and other challenges facing our communities. The state must fulfill its obligation to fund our communities, just like we must fully fund our public schools and invest in clean water. Our state and our economy and our workforce depend on these investments. At the same time, just because we're in the greatest fiscal position in the state's history doesn't mean we can afford to be careless. Wisconsinites have to work too hard and have gone through too much for us to return to austerity. Now is the time to stay prudent, to save smart, and be bold with reasonable investments to keep building a lasting legacy of prosperity. So cutting taxes is part of our agenda, just as it has been for the last 4 years. We've kept more money in Wisconsinites' pockets and delivered the largest tax cut in the state's history. And we can do more. But I also want to be clear tonight, splurging $3.5 billion to hand out to big breaks to the wealthiest 20% of earners isn't responsible. It's a bit reckless. When we deliver tax relief, and we will deliver tax relief, we're going to do it responsibly by ensuring we can keep taxes low and now and in the future, and we'll do it without driving our state into debt or causing devastating cuts to priorities like public schools and public safety. Spending billions on a flat tax isn't a workforce plan or an economic development plan. We need to bolster the middle class. We need to maintain our economy's momentum. And we need to reduce barriers to work and recruit and retain talent to address our state's workforce challenges. We have a plan to responsibly address all three priorities, and we can begin here tonight. A key priority in our strategy for investing federal pandemic aid was supporting Wisconsin's small businesses, our workforce, and long-term economic development. And we were successful. A new 2023 report shows that the share of aid we received under the American Rescue Plan Act, Wisconsin ranks #1 in the country for both the aid we directed to support businesses and aid we directed towards economic development. We invested more than $800 million to provide grants to tens of thousands of businesses to respond to and get through the pandemic, to make healthy and safe improvements, purchasing inventory, affording payroll and rent, and to keep the lights on. Through our successful Main Street Bounce Back grant program, I'm proud to announce tonight that we've helped more than 8,500 Wisconsin small businesses expand and move into vacant storefronts in communities across all 72 counties. If you travel around the state like I do, you can literally see the transformative impacts these investments have made in corridors and communities across Wisconsin. Take Fond du Lac, for example, right by where Kathy and I grew up in Plymouth, cheese capital of the world, by the way. Some things haven't changed much over the years, like Edith's right downtown in Fondy, where Kathy bought her first wedding, or her wedding, not her first wedding, her first and last wedding dress, I hope. Good Lord. But other things have changed, even just in the last year alone. Monica, who owns a jewelry store in Fond du Lac, is one of those businesses that received one of our Main Street Bounce Back grants. Monica took a chance opening her store on the street in Fondy that at the time was surrounded by empty storefronts. She thought maybe in 5 to 10 years, other shops might fill in around her. Her shop opened its doors just about 2 years ago now. Today, Monica's small business is surrounded by new business storefronts, many of which who received our Main Street Bounce Back grants. In fact, Monica's shop is doing so well, she's moving her business into a bigger space just a few blocks away. And this next one is good for everybody. When I visited Monica's shop, she told me I could never have done this in Florida or California. And she's probably right. But even 4 years ago, this dream might not have been possible in Wisconsin either. When we began our work together, Wisconsin was among the worst states in the country for startup creations. But much like downtown Fondy, Wisconsin's changed a lot since then. Since 2019, we've seen significant increases in business startups. New business formations increased to more than 71,000, and that's a 42% increase between 2019 and 2021. And that was no accident, folks. Our economic recovery plan worked by design. We knew that small businesses make up more than 99% of Wisconsin businesses. We knew that small businesses employ nearly half of Wisconsin workers. We knew that small businesses are more than likely to hire locally, reinvest locally back into the community, buy their supplies locally. We fueled our economic recovery by harnessing the ingenuity and homegrown talent we already have right here in Wisconsin. It's why our focus must continue to be building our economy from the ground up, starting with our small businesses, our main streets, and the hearts of our community. Tonight, I'm excited to announce we're going to continue our Main Street Bounce Back program in my biennial budget with a $50 million investment to provide as many as 5,000 eligible businesses with grants up to $10,000 to help afford building repairs and improvements, lease and mortgage payments, and defray other expenses that can be a barrier to someone's dream becoming a successful business. We're also going to ensure that more than 8,500 small businesses who've already received Main Street Bounce Back grants continue to thrive by investing up to $5 million into providing technical assistance, mentorships, educational training to these small business owners to ensure they have the support they need to continue their success. Our homegrown innovators and entrepreneurs also need homegrown talent to support our local businesses and our local economies. And that's what has been a top priority for us these past 4 years. We had record high job numbers in 2022 in really important sectors like construction, wholesale trade, professional, scientific, and technical services, and transportation and utilities. Our registered apprenticeship program last year had the highest number of participants ever in our state history. And last year we added 14 new career pathways to our youth apprenticeship program, in construction, agriculture, health science, and science and health engineering. We made a groundbreaking investment into 3 programs designed to address our state's post-pandemic workforce needs, including our Worker Advancement Initiative and our Worker Connection Program, which help provide more skills training, career coaching, and connected unemployed workers with available jobs. We also recognize that we cannot solve our workforce challenges with a one-size-fits-all from Madison approach. What Superior needs to support its local workforce and economy might be different from the needs in Platteville and Milwaukee or La Crosse or Marinette. So we created the Workforce Innovation Grant Program and invested in 27 local projects across our state to develop long-term, locally based solutions that meet the unique needs of local communities and regions. One of those projects at Wisconsin Forestry Center at UW-Stevens Point is focused on developing the next generation of forestry professionals with a skills curriculum in K-12 schools to get more young people into this critical profession. Another project with the Waupaca County Economic Development Corporation is expanding transportation services to make sure workers can get to work and around the clock, even third shift. Tonight, I'm announcing we're going to continue harnessing our local ingenuity through the Workforce Innovation Grant with a $100 million investment in my budget to keep developing new innovative ideas and locally based projects that will support our workforce and economic development based on what those communities and regions need. We're also going to invest $10 million in an initiative led by the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation to collaborate with industries in every sector of our state's economy to develop and implement initiatives to retain and attract talented workers. And you all know this. We also need investments in targeted industries that we know have been hit hard by the pandemic, including the healthcare industry. I'll propose a historic $50 million investment to bolster Wisconsin's healthcare workforce to expand our long-term care providers, increase the number of mental health providers and psychiatrists, and expand the Wisconsin Nurse Educator Program to provide high-quality education for our future nurses. Finally, our state's clean energy plan provides a blueprint for skills training, apprenticeships, and creating good-paying, family-supporting jobs by investing in new, innovative industries and technologies. So we're going to invest nearly $10 million to expand clean energy job training and reemployment and reducing barriers for folks joining our clean energy workforce. But there's another critical factor that affects our state's workforce, and I hear about it everywhere I go, no matter which corner of the state I'm visiting. 54% of Wisconsinites today live in a child care desert, where there are few to no high-quality options for child care in their neighborhood or their community. And even if there were a nearby child care provider, it still might not be affordable for a working family. If we want to address our state's workforce challenges, we have to make sure child care is accessible and affordable, and together we will. First thing we're going to do to deliver on my promise to expand the Child and Dependent Care Credit, which will provide nearly $30 million in tax relief to more than 100,000 Wisconsinites. Through our Partner Up program, more than 200 employers from Prescott to Trivers are helping make child care more affordable for their employees. We've also helped stabilize the child care industry through our monthly child care counts program, providing the financial stability providers needed to stay open and recruit and retain quality staff to care for our kids. All told, we helped more than 3,300 providers across the state keep their doors open, and we helped more than 22,000 child care professionals stay employed or become employed, and we helped ensure care continuing for more than 113,000 kids across our state. That's a big deal, folks. That is a big deal. These two programs made a big difference in the lives of kids and working families across the state. But the reality is that the federal funds that support them won't last forever. So we'll be continuing these programs to keep child care affordable and accessible in my budget. We're going to provide more than $340 million for child care counts so providers can have the financial stability they need to keep the lights on, pay their workers fair, competitive wages, and continue to provide high-quality care to kids across the state. We'll also be investing more than $22 million into the Partner Up program to expand partnerships between employers and child care providers, because our employers are ready to play a role in ensuring workers have the access to affordable child care, and we're ready to support them. Wisconsin, we face much work ahead of us, but there is much opportunity. We can do big things in our next 4 years together, and if we are inspired, not by power, but by partnership, if we are dedicated, not to selfish interests, but to self-sacrifice, if we can forge new paths, not through conflict, but through collaboration, then together we will. So let's get to work, folks. Thank you so much. And on Wisconsin. Thank you. UW Marching Band, take it away.
That was Governor Tony Evers giving the State of the State address. You can still hear them clapping and the horns blaring as he wraps up the evening. Up next, we're going to be hearing from GOP leaders in the state on their response to some of the things that Governor Tony Evers said in his address. Something he began with is this year, 2023, Wisconsin will be celebrating the 175th birthday of the state. He said he's proud to be a leader in the state on the 175th birthday. He began really speaking about what they've done in the past, his past term. See, he talked about the 8,500 miles of roads and nearly 1,600 bridges that have been repaired and improved across the state. Allocated, he said, $340 million into expanding high-speed internet. He says more than any administration has in state history. He also spoke about more than 387,000 homes and businesses have new or improved access to reliable high-speed internet. He says he wants to double that number by the end of this term. Let's take a look at the band again as they are playing out the governor. Is getting in there. Hoping to see responses now from GOP leaders. Cameras are getting ready to hear from GOP leaders after the State of the State address from Governor Tony Evers. You can hear them all in the background there, getting ready, setting up the cameras. They're really just going into a small spot toward the left of the podium here in the State House, and Governor Tony Evers just got off of stage. They are setting up right over here. You can kind of see we've got our Colton Molesky on the scene here, getting ready. There are lots of people standing all around. It is quite a scene here. Let's recap while we wait a little bit about what Governor Tony Evers said in his address. I'm going to keep looking over here just so I don't miss anything. And, you know, after speaking about all the homes, businesses, roads that have been improved over his term so far, he then dove into the clean energy plan that he has created with strategies to help lower energy bills for working families, reduce reliance on out-of-state energy use, as well as invest in jobs training. He says let's go now to the GOP reaction.
Tax cuts, responsible spending, producing the surplus that we have today. But boy, he sure is trying to spend a lot of money. We'll see in a month what his budget all entails. But I was trying to add up the numbers going along, and he's trying to spend a lot of the hard-earned taxpayer money of Wisconsin.
What do you think about that shared revenue? Shared revenue.
That's actually similar to the plan that we've been working on with the 3 levels of local government. So it's good to see that he may be somewhat supportive of a plan that we put in front of him.
Is that plan something he'd spoken with you or Representative Voss with before tonight?
We've had 2 discussions now with the governor, but I'm not going to get into what we're talking about together.
Do you see mental health as an area where there's $500 million for mental health programs?
Well, look, that is a lot of money, right? So we have to keep in mind that a lot of the surplus that we have is one-time money. And it seems that the governor tonight was spending down that one-time money on ongoing expenses, which could put us in a massive deficit in the future, which frankly is what his first budgets would have done if we hadn't fixed them the first 2 times around. So he took a lot of credit tonight for the Republican legislature's work over the last 4 years, but he won't take any responsibility for some of the problems that he caused by shutting businesses down and locking teachers and students out of their classrooms.
Using $2 billion in new funding for schools, what is the ballpark that you think Republicans could support?
Well, look, the majority leader and I and the speaker and the finance team haven't gotten into those specifics yet, so I'm not going to throw a number out there tonight, but I think
we understand that there's inflationary pressures on education and local governments, and we're willing to address those, but we're not just going to, because we have $7 billion, we're not just going to overspend in all areas of government.
He again rejected a flat tax proposal. Where do those negotiations go, and where are you willing to move at this point?
3 of our 4 neighbors either have a flat tax or are moving towards a flat tax. Michigan has a flat tax, much lower than what the vast majority of taxpayers pay in Wisconsin. Illinois has a flat tax, which is much lower than the vast majority of income taxpayers pay in Wisconsin. We have an opportunity for historic tax reform in the state of Wisconsin, and we need to address all 4 tax rates.
And I would also quickly add to that it's important to remember that one of the very first bills the Republican legislature sent to the governor 4 years ago was his own tax plan from the campaign trail that he vetoed. So you'll excuse me if I don't necessarily believe that the governor is all that interested in tax relief. I think he believes that he can spend the money better than the hardworking people of the state can.
What would you have liked to have seen him mention that he didn't mention?
Well, I would have liked to have seen him talk more about tax cuts. The tax cuts that he's signed in the past were a great start. Again, a historic tax cut passed by the Republican legislature. None of that was included in either of his first 2 budgets. He is clearly, it's not a priority. Spending is his priority.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, thanks.
All right, we just heard from the Republican legislature. They spoke about flat tax in Wisconsin, looking at other states and comparing how they do the flat tax system and how that may work here in Wisconsin. They spoke a lot about how Governor Evers is spending federal money right now on Wisconsinites, and they are looking into how that is going to be managed, as the federal money may lighten up now that COVID-19 restrictions have been lightened as well. Something that they wanted to hear more of / see more of tonight was more on tax cuts. And that is something that they will be continuing to speak on as they go through it. So let me just take you back here to how they're wrapping up for the night, the State of the State address. Thank you so much for joining us on Facebook, on YouTube, online, and on our apps. We so appreciate you being here with us tonight. And we'll leave that there. Thanks for joining for the State of the State address.